What's going on, guys, and welcome to February's episode of Plus Club, the show where we play the games offered on PlayStation Plus throughout the month, and at the end of the month we talk about like a book club. My name is Seth, and joining me today, of course, is Chevy. Chevy, how you doing since we reviewed the finals?
Finals, yeah.
For Game of the Month. We talked about that and had a really good conversation about our perspectives from me playing daily since the beginning, and you taking a pretty big break and coming back to it. So hopefully anybody who's curious about that goes and watch that episode. Yeah, how are you doing? And are you excited to talk about Payday 3, High on Life, and Pac Man World RePac, the games we played in February?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing pretty good. It's the weekend now, and I finally get to get my hands on a Monster Hunter once we're done recording. So looking forward to that. But as far as talking about these, I actually had a chance to play all of them more than I usually get to, so yeah. I feel pretty good about having played them this month. And so, yeah, I should have at least something to say about them.
Yeah.
So,
you, at the very least, I know that you played Payday 3 quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you should definitely have some
opinions
opinions
on
on that.
Obviously played that one probably the most, but it's a co-op game, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, other than that, looking forward to seeing what the month brings us.
Yeah.
Yourself?
I'm good. A little tired, a little lethargic. Not for the same reasons as typical. I went and saw Deftones in Seattle last night, which was amazing. And I was out late wandering around Seattle, and I'm 38, so I'm feeling pretty tired today from doing all that.
Not a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah, but it was a good night, and feeling good today. I'm excited to talk about these games. I'm also excited to discuss our thoughts on the games coming out in March for PlayStation Plus, which are Dragon Age: The Veil Guard, Sonic Colors Ultimate, and TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Cowabunga Collection, which I am not looking forward to saying all month, which are games in March for PlayStation Plus. What do you think about those?
So I'll just start with Dragon Age, I suppose. I had zero intention of ever playing that game, so I guess I get to have an opinion now.
Well, EA and BioWare had intentions of you playing it, so they made it
forcing it on me.
Yep.
I'm morbidly curious, I suppose. I would say that I'm a Dragon Age fan, but realistically, I love one of them and think one's okay. So
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think the first one's fantastic, and in typical EA fashion, they make one good game, and after that, they're like, let's not do that again. Every fucking time. EA's so good at that.
Inquisition was fun, but it wasn't
fine.
the same anymore.
It was fine.
So
yeah, I have no major complaints about Inquisition, but it wasn't as good as the first game.
No, agreed. So, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll definitely probably have thoughts on that one.
Yeah.
What is Sonic Colors?
Sonic Colors, I had to look it up. It is one of the Sonics that came out that mixes both the Dreamcast era 3D Sonic gameplay with 2D, 3D, 2D perspective, 3D graphics, Sonic running from left to right.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine baseline. So
yeah,
I have no issues ever trying out a Sonic game. I think the magic's kind of dead, but I'm willing to be wrong.
1,000% the magic's dead, but there are every once in a while some Sonic games that get on PlayStation Plus. They all come to PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
That are serviceable. Mm-hmm. I'm never like, oh god, I hate this. I'm just like, okay, this is what.
Yeah, I never dread trying a new one. So.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I assume, is a collection of the old games.
It is a collection of 13.
Oh god.
TMNT games.
I'm gonna have to put a whole day aside for that.
The ones on back on Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all that shit. Oh god. Yep. So
I have vivid memories of pulling my hair out, basically, playing those games. So we'll see if I still have this.
Yeah, it'll be a fun revisit. And I don't know how multiplayer is going to work on some of those games, if there's going to be online or split screen or same screens, but we should probably maybe play a couple of them together. But 13's a lot, so
that's a lot of games.
I will try all of them out. I probably will not beat any of them, but I have beaten some of them in the past, so this will basically be me revisiting those games. And there's some solid Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games from the past, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to
I will say
revisiting them.
13 games in one collection, though, is a pretty solid get for PlayStation Plus. So
yeah, it's crazy, especially if you're into retro gaming. That's kind of awesome. So Even if I don't get into that and play every single one all the way through, which I won't. It would be kind of nice to just have those.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Okay. I had no idea.
Yeah. I was like, collection, is that like 3 or 4 games? And then I watched the video and I was watching all the games fly by and I counted 11. Maybe it was going too fast for me, but then I looked through the details and said 13. I was like, oh, that's a lot of fucking games. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, so I agree with you on that. I am actually really interested. I'm already thinking of a grade I would give it for just giving us 13 games that are already proven, but obviously I have to play it to find out. Maybe it's a terrible port of those games.
Fair.
Sonic, I am kind of neutral about. I don't know what to expect. It, from what I saw, looked fine. I don't think it's going to do anything that's going to be like super special, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Dragon Age, the Veilguard, I'm very, very interested in. Because first off, that game came out 4 months ago. And even though game journalists and other people were really trying to push that game as like this amazing game that everybody needs to play, saying it's doing great, blah, blah, blah. I think it only sold like 2 million copies, which is less than what they were hoping for with that game. Had a bunch of controversy surrounding it. Me and you showed disinterest in it over time. Originally, we were open-minded to it, but then we saw gameplay first, and it looked not great. And then
the visuals were a huge turnoff.
And like a boss battle, it just looked like it was like a huge damage sponge. And I'm like, that doesn't look fun. I could be wrong. I'm not hard judging it just yet. But then I saw a video of the dialogue, and you could talk about all the social stuff in it that all you want. I don't care about that too much. But the dialogue itself sounded not good, comically bad. And then it was a bad sign when the person who directed the game left, and I think a bunch of people got laid off, and support for the game got cut. So, and it's coming out 4 months later. This screams, and we talked about this already off camera. It screams that they got to make some money off of this. They probably got the sales that they're feeling like they're gonna get, and this is their next best shot at making money on this project,
recouping some of their losses. Yeah.
So that's all telling, but I am going to go into it as open-minded as possible. If it's great, I'll be honest about that. I'm not going into this hoping to be right or wrong about any of my preconceived opinions. But I am a morbidly curious person as well. So even if it is like a trash fire, I'm going to enjoy experiencing, if it is really that bad and kind of seeing what went wrong with it. But if it's cool or somewhere in between, that's where I think I'm going to come out on this. Is I'm always pretty centrist on these kind of topics of like, people love it, people hate it. I'm going to come out going like, yeah, this sucked, but I liked that. So yeah, I have a morbid curiosity to try this. And this is a game I almost pulled the trigger on. But then when I saw more on, I was like, I'll wait for a sale. Well, I don't have to. 4 months later, it's fucking on PlayStation Plus. So, kind of crazy. We don't get AAA, big budget AAA games on PlayStation Plus within like 4 months unless Sony planned to launch it there. So, pretty wild, pretty fucking crazy. So, kind of an interesting month for sure, and a month I am looking forward to. So, that's cool. You got anything else to say on it?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right, well, let us know in the comments what you guys think about the games coming out in March. Dragon Age, Sonic Colors, TMNT, the Cowbun Collection. Are you looking forward to these games? And what games are you hoping for? Every once in a while, people have these ideas of games that they think should come out, and it's always interesting to hear what people say. So yeah, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I can't wait for Grand Theft Auto 6 to come out, and like a month into it, people being like, why isn't it on PlayStation Plus?
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. All right, well, let's jump into the games we played, which were Payday 3, High on Life, and Pac Man RePac. And I think we should probably start with Pac Man World RePac. I keep forgetting what that game's like. I just looked at it and I already forgot the name of it.
Waka Waka.
Pac Man World RePac apparently is a remake of a PlayStation game, if I'm getting that correct. I believe it came out in 1999. And it is a very straightforward, basic 3D platformer. And I want to emphasize that because this was a PlayStation platformer, it was likely designed for a D-pad. Mm-hmm. So that's worth noting. In it, you basically go to different stages, very run-of-the-mill platforming worlds where you run around defeating enemies, solving simple environmental puzzles, collecting a bunch of stuff, and basically finishing the map and leaving, going on to the next location. You play as Pac Man. Has some pretty basic mechanics. Like kind of like Yoshi does like an air run, but you don't go very far with it. You can jump, you can like roll like Sonic to go up hills. Pretty basic stuff. And yeah, anything else I'm missing in terms of like describing it?
Yeah, it's got some similarities like Mario and stuff like that too, where you can like turn metal and sink in water and stuff like that too. So
yeah,
there's pretty typical like what you would expect from a platformer, at least in modern day. Yeah.
Well, we both played it, and let's start with you when it comes to your impressions of Pac Man World RePac in February.
Yeah, well, I mean, if this was a modern game, my opinion would be probably a lot different than it's going to be. So, so turning it on and playing it, I honestly didn't know I was getting into it at all. And then realizing that it was just a platformer, I was like, oh, okay, this will be pretty simple to play. And I started playing it, and that was kind of an understatement with the simplicity part. It is very basic, and I don't mean that necessarily as a negative as much as like there's just not a lot of complexity going on there. It does have, some stuff going on. So you're not just walking forward and jumping on stuff. Like there are small little puzzles or like little trials where you have to like collect a bunch of pellets real fast before they disappear and the ghosts turn back to their normal form, which is a nice nod to its roots. The stages are all different themes. Like, there's I think it's like a piratey themed one where it's like water, stuff like that. And then as you kind of go on the world map left and right, you'll see all these different other zones as well. So there's some variety in that regard as well. I already kind of brought it up, but there are some puzzles where like you go in the water and Pac-Man's buoyant. Is that the word I want?
He floats.
Yeah. And so sometimes to get through, you have to become heavy to walk across the bottom. And so you'll turn metal, for example. And then that'll get a little more complicated with like spikes and stuff like that. So you have to try to like get through. And overall it was okay. I don't think there's anything really to write home about with this game, but it is very simple, and I think because I don't have any nostalgia for it, it really did almost nothing for me.
Actually, when I was looking up what this was a remake of, like PlayStation or whatever, because I was like, what era is this from? Because I need to know that, because my original opinion on this game when I first played it was pretty strong. But when I looked it up, there were a lot of people in comments talking about how they played this when they were younger, and they liked it because they were returning to a game they had played.
Yeah,
it's like some people played Spyro when they were a kid.
For sure.
Some people played like Sarah loves Crash Bandicoot because she grew up playing that.
And like for me, it'd be something like Banjo-Kazooie would be one for me.
Sure.
So.
Or even though we said the magic with Sonic's gone, I grew up playing
Sonic.
Yeah. I will always have a soft spot for OG Sonic.
Yeah.
Mario, of course. But like everyone's on that page.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you were a kid and you had a PlayStation, someone had bought you the Pac-Man game, and back then that was an acceptable platformer. You might want to revisit that for the nostalgia factor. But yeah, like you were saying, you didn't have an affinity for it, but some people did. So I think that is a major X factor.
Yeah, for sure. And I, by all means, I don't think it was, or it is a bad game. It's just, it feels old, 100%. And because it is old, I get to excuse it now. So
I will be lighter on what I have to say about it, but I did play PlayStation platformers of the time, and I do think this is not as good as many of them. So,
well, I can't imagine it has, the same. Not to remember budgets back then, but
yeah,
I'm sure it was just an idea someone slapped together at the time. So
my first thought was like, this was, I forgot who owns fucking Pac-Man, Namco.
Yeah,
I think this either was they needed to do something with the brand, or on PlayStation they're trying to reimagine or redefine in this new world of 3D platformers, Pac Man. But it does feel like a low effort attempt at that.
Yeah, I don't really feel like I am experiencing like a vision, right? I just feel like I'm experiencing a bunch of ideas kind of slammed together.
Yeah, it feels like someone went like, hey, there's these 3D platformers on PlayStation. What can we do with Pac Man? And someone went, well, we'll just make a platformer. It doesn't feel like there was like this strong idea to make a we're going to make a Pac Man platformer. It was just like, just do what the fuck they're doing with their platformers, but put Pac Man in it.
Yeah. Well, and then like outside of like the control scheme obviously being designed for an era where not every controller had a joystick yet.
Yeah, most didn't.
Yeah, I think about in 1999, if I'm not mistaken, there were joystick controllers, but they were
the original DualShock came out.
Yeah, but they were still selling non-dual shock controllers.
Well, they weren't even standard for all of PlayStation.
Yeah,
most games didn't use the DualShock as a novelty controller, and it was made and came out with Ape Escape. And back then, you used the left stick to move or run around, and you used the right stick to swing your net.
Oh, right.
Because the standards weren't there yet to look with that right stick.
Right, and so the controls are a little stiff. They do feel like they tried to make it work, but it is definitely not like the smoothest experience.
It's not a smooth platformer.
Yeah,
it's pretty clunky.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot more to say on it. I don't really have any like major things to complain about, which I would say is a good thing for what it is. I also just don't really have any like shining, reviews for it either. It's a pretty basic, you're getting what you get kind of thing. I'll save, I guess, the rest of what I was going to start giving recommendations out. I'll save it. So,
yeah,
you.
I didn't like this game at all. Before I knew it was a PlayStation game, I was really confused. I was playing it, and I was talking with Sarah while she was watching me play it, and she was like, is this the whole thing? I was like, yeah, this is all you do in it. It's kind of fucking crazy. It's a very simple platformer, and when I thought it was like maybe more of a modern game, I was like, I don't know who the hell thought this up or designed this. Who greenlit it? Who is it for? All that shit. Because it's like the movement feels terrible. Now, in retrospect, I know it's a PlayStation game, so I have to excuse it. But it doesn't feel good. So part of my experience is gameplay wasn't that great. But I have to recognize it's an old game. Graphics, even though I'm sure they're cleaned up, especially from PlayStation, I'd love to see what it originally looked like. I should check that out, because I always like to see how far the graphics have come. But I don't think it looks good. But I'm sure it looks way better than the PlayStation version. I think the map design is very samey on almost every location. They just thematically look different, but they're very similar in the way that the collectibles are hidden. The enemies, and the enemies don't really change up a whole lot either. It's very samey constantly. It's just like a very similar experience on every single map. Like, you'd have to be like a major Pac-Man fan to, I think, be enthusiastic about this game, outside of maybe when you were a kid you played this and you know better then, but now you have that nostalgia of a game that you enjoyed. And so I think just in its design, I don't think it's very good. I think it's a very boring platformer, and you can blame the era of that, but there were legit great platformers before that. During that time, PlayStation had a bunch of legendary platformers. Of course, N64 did as well. Of course, N64 did. They had a bunch of great fucking platformers. So, it's not necessarily the time didn't allow for better platformers. This one I don't think they put the same kind of passion and effort into. Like I said, I think this is Namco going like, everybody else making platformers, we should probably have one too. So graphics aren't that great. I'm sure they're better than they were. Design's not that great. Gameplay's not that interesting. Mechanics, I don't think, are very good. I think they feel super clunky. It's an older game, so I'll excuse that, but it's just not fun for me to play. I don't like, even though it goes back to how the original Pac Man works, you run around trying not to get killed by ghosts until you can kill them. This has a similar thing sometimes, where there's certain enemies you can't do anything with until you get big, and then you can kill them. That doesn't do much for me. I don't. I don't think it's a fun mechanic. I found myself just running past a lot of stuff because I was like, I don't want to fucking deal with this. I'm not interested in collecting the collectibles. I'm not interested in finding a way to defeat these dudes if I can just still beat the map without having to deal with them. So yeah, I don't think I really need to drive the point home too much. It's a very, very simplistic, less than the other games of the time game that, you know, can be excused in a lot of ways for it being old, but I do feel like it wasn't great when it came out either. That's my opinion of somebody who did not play when it came out. So I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's just my assumption. But I did play a lot of platformers back then. And yeah, I played this for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I uninstalled it instantly because I have zero interest in ever playing it again. If you like this game for whatever reason that you like it, no shade. I'm never trying to shape people's opinions on anything. You think what you think.
Definitely.
And enjoy what you enjoy. But for me, without any nostalgia, going into it completely blind, not knowing what the hell I was getting into, this is a game that, and this is hard for me to think a lot of times when I play anything, this is a game that I felt like I was wasting my time by doing it. The only reason I played it as long as I did is because that's what we do on this channel. So, yeah, I didn't like it. So, that's that.
Yeah.
Recommendations.
So I was gonna say, you know, if you're into platformers, you've played them all type of thing. Maybe you missed this one, give it a shot. But also, if you just kind of don't want to think too much, you just want to sit and play something mindlessly, I think you could very easily play this game pretty mindlessly. You know, sometimes it's nice to have something like that where you don't have to think and you can shut your brain off and play a game. So. If you're into collecting stuff, the game has, you know, the pellets like Pac Man usually does, but it also has like other, you know, types of collectibles as well. I don't know if this is a good achievement hunting game or not. Maybe someone could bring that up in the comments, but if so, that would probably be another recommendation at that point. Yeah, and if you just like Pac Man, if you're just a big Pac Man fan,
and those people exist. Pac Man's definitely a brand that like older gamers than even us have, like, you know, have like a nostalgia for. And yeah, I would back that. If you're like a Pac Man fan, whether you did play this in the past, you don't have this version, or you didn't play this in the past, it's probably worth checking out. But you probably already know about it if you're into Pac Man as a brand.
Yeah.
I would also say for people who are into retro gaming, you appreciate older games and game design, you might like this. So.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's about it. I agree with everything else you said. All right, let's grade it. I go first, right?
Yeah.
My enjoyment of this game would be a D, but I think that's completely unfair given that it's just an older game with some bad design. But it's just an older game and it functions. So I'm going to give it a C minus. It passes because it's playable. But I think it doesn't offer much. I don't think it's worth really looking at, and I don't think it's fun. But it's an older game, so I really have to be nice to it in that regard. It's not of this era. There's a lot of things have evolved in the platforming world since 1999, and so yeah. But just my sheer like disinterest in, and I'm a curious dude. I'll play fucking almost everything. I'm interested in all games. And I was interested in this, and then I played. I was like, "Wow! There's so many things I could do to pass the time that would be better than this. So many things. I mean, fucking. I'm not gonna think of something mundane. You guys get the point. C minus. Pretty weak C minus. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the game's fine. I didn't actually run into any problems with it, so I don't have any complaints in that regard. And yeah, my enjoyment was head empty. So
that's fair.
I'm gonna give it a C.
Okay, fair enough. Got anything else?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think about Pac Man World RePac. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you not play? If you didn't play, why didn't you play it? And if you didn't like it, what didn't you like about it? If you do like it, please make the case for it. You don't have to convince me. Just like tell me like what you like about it. I'm curious about that. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's something I'm not understanding. But I don't need my mind changed either. Just let me know why you like it. Let us know everything you're thinking about in the comments below when it comes to Pac Man World RePac. I'm so glad I don't have to try to remember that name. Every time I think of that name, I'm like, what is that game called? All right, so next game we played in February was Payday 3. If you didn't get a chance to play Payday 3, Payday 3 is the sequel to Payday and Payday 2, games that a lot of people have played, so you probably know what Payday 3 is. But basically, Payday 3 is the movie Heat as a video game. It's a heist game where you play as a crew of 4 people taking on illegal jobs, robbing banks, stealing stuff from nightclubs, art galleries, all sorts of stuff. You take on jobs, and you have an arsenal of weapons that you buy with the money you make from these heists. You get upgrades to the weapons. You have a perk system in this game that has changed from the second game, where you have to invest in a line of perks to start unlocking the perks within that tree. So if you're not, you can also research stuff as well. They're just like all the Payday games. There are masks that you unlock, outfits you can put on, but the masks are a big thing in Payday. You get very special looking ones. You get ones that are kind of blank canvases that you can like put your own colors on. You can also do that with weapons. And yeah, gameplay wise, you start with your masks off once you put your mask on. Yeah, there's some missions where it's just gets crazy right when it starts. It's very, very rare though. Just like there's some missions that are just pure stealth. But yeah, you start with your mask off and you pretty much do some surveillance, plot your plan with your team, and then you can either try to stealth the mission where no cops get called and you get out. I was gonna say quick and easy, but more so just easy. There's cameras, security guards, all sorts of stuff. But once you go loud or you get seen, and you put the mask on, and you pull your guns out, cops start showing up. And basically, the longer the heist goes on, the crazier it gets. You start running out of resources. Heavier and heavier police forces start showing up. You got snipers, like big juggernaut dudes. Drones. Fucking sneaky as shit. And they love me so much. Splinter Cell dudes who will just run up and tackle you. What were you going to say?
I'll wait till my opinion. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And it just turns into mayhem. You're shooting through the streets and trying to just get the booty that you went in to get and get the fuck out with it. And yeah, you complete the missions, you level up, and you buy more equipment to continue doing the heists. We both played Payday 3. And I start this time. So I've been playing Payday since the first one. I really like the series. I think Payday 2 is a fantastic game. And I actually bought and played Payday 3 when it originally came out. And when it came out then, I think it only had like 6 or 7 heists. Wasn't much. Less stuff to unlock. And there wasn't even like hand animations yet. Like when you walk up to stuff and interact with it, your hands wouldn't come out and do anything with it. It just showed like a bar loading while you held the button down. So that happened after I stopped playing. The patch came out where they put in like hand animations because the game wasn't finished. It's early access.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant at release it had that.
Yeah. So I remember leaving the game at that point going like, this isn't as good as Payday 2. I'm going to wait and see what they do with it in terms of like supporting it. But it's fine. Coming back to it, I do think it's a better package now. I don't think it's necessarily... I don't think it's as good as Payday 2. I'll just be honest right up front. I think Payday 2 was a great example of how to support a game. And it's almost unfair to compare the two games because Payday 2 has been out longer and they support the fuck out of it. So the total package you get with Payday 2 is...
Yeah, it's kind of like Borderlands 2 to the rest of the Borderlands games.
Sure. It just has time on its side and great leadership that decided to support the hell out of the game. It's like if I compared Monster Hunter Wilds right now to Monster Hunter World... in its current state versus its current state, because World had time to release all this content now. One's going to be bigger than the other one. Of course, there's features and stuff that are better in one, but you get my point. So Payday 3 still doesn't have the same amount of content as Payday 2, but it's getting there. I don't know if they're still supporting the game though. I don't remember if they stopped or not. But anyway,
I would hope so if they got a third one out now.
There are more maps, more heists to do. Some of them are repeats from Payday 2, but I was happy to see that because it did start feeling kind of repetitive when I played it originally.
Actually, to add on to that too, I I think I like that to an extent, anyways, because that's what Left 4 Dead did as well.
Oh, I don't mind
And I
it.
think it just made it a better package, as long as it's not the only thing.
It just made the first game obsolete, which is fine.
Sure, yeah, and if they want to bring some of 2 over while still making new stuff, that's important.
Yeah.
That could be the same story. So
Yeah. So yeah, more heists now, some repeats, but that's fine because some of them are classics and it's fun to replay them in this new engine with overall better gameplay. I think Payday 3 plays better than Payday 2 in terms of its gameplay. It has better stealth than 2 had. 2 had that available, but it wasn't very good. This you can actually kind of do some stuff with.
yeah,
General movement and like vaulting through windows, stuff like that feels better than Payday 2. Just everything in general feels better. So being able to replay some of those maps in a better designed game is cool. Weapons, I think, is kind of lacking. There's plenty of weapons to unlock, but there's not a lot, and there's not a lot of variety. Even when Josh was playing with us, he was like kind of disappointed with the amount of shotguns. Basically, he's like, "Oh, there's not very many shotguns in this game." I'm like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of every kind of type of weapon.
yeah.
So that could be improved upon, but I'm like level 40 or 50, I think. I don't remember. And I still have plenty of stuff to unlock. And every weapon has like upgrades to unlock as well. So you pick a weapon you like and then you start working towards making it better. So there's stuff to work towards. I think they could definitely do a better job. Masks also seem a little limited, but again, I'm looking at that based off of Payday 2.
Yeah,
It's kind of
so
unfair. Yeah, it's kind of unfair, but in a game that, gameplay wise, I could keep playing. I look at what I'm working towards. I need that incentive to be working towards stuff, and there's plenty of stuff to work towards. But I feel like they could definitely add more. When it comes to the general aesthetic of the game and graphics stuff like that, they're decent. It's a clean looking game. Definitely better looking than Payday 2 because it's a newer game. I think the maps are pretty decent.
Yeah,
I think
they are.
I think their designs are cool. They're very kind of similar to Payday 2. Like there's a bank, there's a bunch of stuff that you saw in Payday 2, but they're different locations, different layouts. I think they're designed better in terms of like choices on how you want to do your heist. I think they could be a little more dynamic. Sometimes they're randomized, like certain things are different each time, but I think they could do more than they have done. But it still feels like you can go in and have a different experience on this map than the last time you played it. And I do like the layouts. I like the maps they've designed. So that makes me want more heists from them, just because I like what they're doing.
Yeah, and to expand on that too, to give an example, there's a jewelry store map, and when we were playing it, there was the option to obviously just go in the front and just basically thug it out if you want to, or sneak in the back alleys. I think we ended up jumping through a window. Like the whole building was empty, and basically we're robbing them blind while they were still open for business.
Yep.
But there was this fun thing that we ended up missing out on. But like there was a door that only the manager's ID could open, and they were going to leave work soon. Well, they didn't come through the back though. They went out the front door, so we just never got a chance to see them and like get access to that part of the map.
Yeah.
And then there was also another lock that had a passcode, which we had to dig through the emails on the manager's computer to find. So it's got cool little systems like that too, where like if you spend a little bit of time, you might like make it out with some more money. So
yeah. And there's like that time limit, like you mentioned, like that person was leaving, so you have to kind of make that decision, but it didn't fail the mission either. It was just an additional thing that could have been done. Just like the first map, the bank, you can do that quietly. I've done it with randos before. Me and Josh almost did it one time until the very end. The game has a system where if you stealthily kill cops or security, the person over the radio will call in and be like, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while," and you can actually pick up the radio and be like, pretend you're the security guard or the cop, but you can only do that like 4 times. So you have to really plan what cops you're going to take out. Sometimes you don't get to plan it. Sometimes they'll walk in the door and they go to spot you, and someone shoots them in the head, and you're like, "Fuck, we gotta get rid of this body now." But
or you do it with an unsilenced pistol and alert the entire facility.
The whole place goes crazy, yeah. And then you're just like, okay, I guess we're going nuts. But in that map, there's like a security room, and then there's like a power room. and you have to infiltrate those. And cops are carrying cards that you can take off of them without them knowing, and you end up like turning the power off, and then like there's a symbol in that room, and that symbol correlates with the cord that goes into this door that once you find the right cord to cut, will unlock that door, and then you can get into the vault. But there's a security guard still wandering around, so you have to kind of keep an eye. Like when Josh was trying to get the door figured out, I was like on the camera watching where the cops were, and when a cop would start walking towards this direction, I'd let him know, and he'd stop fucking with the door and go hide and then go back. So there's a lot of cool cooperative coordination that you would hope for in a game like this. So it does do it.
Even another example. Sorry, I know we're just kind of talking about our gameplay experiences at this point, but the courtroom, trying to get that guy out of court, like while it was in session.
Yep,
that was such a wild mission. I was like, oh, this is a crazy idea.
Yeah, that got really crazy for us.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because like I remember like I went in there and I could see how you could do it like stealth wise, and I was just like, okay. But then like one reporter like got weirded out and like shouted or something like that, and ruined the whole thing. I was like, holy crap! And then turned into a nightmare because like you're in a courthouse full of freaking cops, right?
And that's a really fun factor for me is the tension before things go loud.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to get things done, and there's that pressure of like, oh fuck, they're gonna catch us. And then when things start going awry, you're like, is there a way to stop this? Sometimes you shoot somebody really quick and hide their body, or like it just gets crazy and everyone goes nuts, and like then you have to go loud. And that level in particular, dudes are like coming through the fucking skylights and shit and shooting.
Oh yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was a whole shootout, and no matter how that ends, it's gonna be fun. But I enjoy that tension. I also enjoy the in the moment cooperation with the people you're playing with. Trying to figure things out. It does feel like you're working on a job, like trying to figure out how the hell to do this without pulling your gun out and basically having to survive an onslaught. So yeah, I think the maps are good. So I also think the perk system, even though I don't prefer the way they have it set up, because in this, like I said, you have all these different lines of perks that are, like this is the stealth tree, this is the tank tree, the enforcer tree, the hacker tree. You have to put a point into the first of that tree and unlock the rest of the trees by research. And then once you have that perk activated, the other perks slowly start unlocking. Yeah. So if you don't have it activated, you're not unlocking anything in that perk tree. So it's kind of incentivizing you to have multiple perks activated at once, so you're not just all one thing. Later, once you get more things unlocked, you just do whatever the hell you want. Yeah. But there's some pretty cool perks. I'm not a big fan of the way they did the perk tree, but the perks themselves, I forgot what they're called. There's 3 elements in the game. It's like grit, something and something. One gives you 10% damage, one gives you defense, and one gives you speed. Yeah. And so certain perks will activate certain of those things, and then certain things can only be done if you have grit activated. So you're playing this like game in the perks of like it's
synergy.
It's synergy, and you're crafting builds, which is kind of what you want to do. So in a game like this, like you want a build that feels like unique. And so I do like the perks, and there's some really cool ones. There's ones where it's like when your mask off, like if you have, I forget what it's called, but it's basically the one where you move fast. If you have that activated at all, cameras don't see you. So like, it's kind of like you just kind of blend into the crowd when you don't have a mask on. I'm like, that's kind of a cool idea, because if you're like the intel guy, you want to go in there and start kind of figuring things out, but you're going to go like behind where you're not supposed to go, and you don't want to get noticed. You would have those kind of things activated, doing like reconnaissance. And then somebody who's like more of somebody who's going to go loud and kill people if things get crazy, they would want to start specking into damage output and like being a tank and shit. So there's some really cool perks. I'd like to get them all unlocked at some point, because there's one where like you're able to hack cameras, turn them off, which is awesome. I think you can only do like one. No, I think you can blow up one camera and it like stuns people or something. But
so it's the looping footage.
Yeah, the looping footage, which I really liked. I think that's the one you can only do one time. But yeah, there's one where you can carry 2 bags in the game. When you're taking the money from the heist, that you throw it into bags. You got to carry the bags. You move slower. There's one where you move the normal speed when you carry a bag. There's one where you carry 2 bags. I think I unlocked that last time we played. Yeah, some really cool perks and yeah, cool maps. I wish the music was better. I remember Payday 2's music being way better than Payday 3, but that's like a really small complaint. It's just I wish it was better. It's fine.
Yeah.
When I'm talking with you guys and figuring things out, I'm not really listening to music a whole lot. But
Right.
I think the atmosphere is just better in Payday 2. Yeah, guns feel fine. I'm not a huge fan of any of them that I've tried so far, but they all seem to kill things, so I'm okay with that. And the challenge of the cops is pretty decent. Does kind of a Left 4 Dead vibe to it when it gets really crazy. You start getting these like special infected, basically special units coming in who are like a big tank dude, a shield guy where you have to shoot out the little glass piece in this shield to hit him in the face. Big juggernaut
otherwise
dude.
They're invincible, man.
Yeah, big juggernaut guy where you got to break his face shield on his mask to get a headshot.
The worst.
Yeah, they're annoying. And then I hate the Splinter Cell guys just because it gives you a sound indicator when they're coming up on you, but when you hear it, they're already attacking you, basically.
So, yeah, I was going to say the sound design for your warning is garbage for those guys.
Yeah, you hear, and you go to turn because you know they're coming, and they're already in your face, like jumping and kicking. And I'm like, you can't play it like 1 second earlier.
I also think it kind of blends in with the other sounds. I don't like ever catch it. So
I always hear it, but by the time I'm like turning around and I'm like playing on a mouse and keyboard, like, well, normally I am, not on PlayStation, of course, but even on PC, I like turn real quick and they're already in my fucking face. I'm like, that's annoying, but you know, it's just like, were they lurkers?
I can't remember.
Screamer? I don't remember. Back in Left 4 Dead,
every game has a variant of it.
Yeah,
it seems
you
like,
you know, a jockey, something that's going to jump on you and take you out if you're separated from your team. That's what these guys serve as, and they work, and people typically are quick to shoot them off anyway. Speaking of that, real quick, before I pass over to you, this game does have bot support. They're not the smartest thing ever, but they do. If you don't have your mask on, they won't put their masks on. If you put your mask on and they put their masks on, they will just shoot somebody.
Yeah, they will.
And it's just like, what are you doing?
Stupid drug den one we did. Because you start hot. As soon as they walked by a window, they just shot. I was like, shh.
Yeah, there's cops sitting inside the drug den, and like we're trying to stealth up, and our masks are on by default, and these dudes just like went pop, shot through the window, killed a guy. I'm like, all right, guess we're going.
Yeah, that was stupid.
But yeah, if you're a solo player, you can play this by yourself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. The game is designed for communication and working together, but it is playable.
They will
player.
fight though. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know, I've played by myself before, like just trying to grind and level, and it's serviceable. You're not going to play on the hardest difficulties with these guys because they're not that intelligent. But if you're just like wanting to play by yourself and just have a fun time and figure things out on your own, maybe try stealth shit on your own, you can do it. But yeah, overall, Payday 3 I don't think is as good as Payday 2 in the content department, but gameplay and map design, and coming back to it and seeing that it has improved with more content and hand animations, I think it's a pretty decent package. So I enjoyed playing it.
Yeah.
And you'll probably touch on this a bit, but I did play it on PS5 for a little bit. Luckily, it does have cross progression and cross save, so I got to play my character from PC that I already played before on PS5. And then I decided after a while that I didn't want to play on PS5 anymore, and I hopped over to PC. And Chevy did that as well. I don't think he's planning on doing that, though, but I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to cover that real quick, I played, I think it was like 2 maps, three maps or whatever.
You played more than that.
On the controller. Did I?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
We're playing for a while.
Anyways, I played for a little bit on the controller, and it plays fine. I suck with the controller. I can't hit anything.
Real quick, though, because I also played on PS5 as I'm supposed to for the channel, the controls feel fine. And you could probably adjust this in the options. I didn't touch it. But as somebody who plays first-person shooters a lot on PC and console, I did think the aiming felt kind of wonky, and it's because it felt like there was an acceleration that was happening. If you barely press it, you know, your crosshair is going to move around, but if you fully press it, it goes from slow and starts speeding up. And that always feels really fucking weird to me when I'm trying to get like more fine-tuned aiming. And so that is probably my biggest complaint about the PS5 experience. Otherwise, it's the same game as PC.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like as a rule basically. If we play a shooter on PlayStation Plus, I'm gonna always complain about the joystick because I hate playing shooters on a controller. So, but that's a me problem, not the game problem.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's like not even going to be a factor here. So it plays fine on PlayStation. Zero complaints there. I did eventually. It was like $30 on Steam. I just said screw it and bought it. That being said, I agree with pretty much everything Seth said, and obviously I kind of jumped in a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of like add a little bit here. I also played Payday 2 quite a bit.
Yep.
I really like that game. This game, super familiar feeling, and I was really kind of worried to play this game because I remember when it came out, everyone complained.
Yep.
And I was like, cool, I get to play the game that got all these complaints, and I understand the lack of content complaint because like the same thing happens with a lot of games that get sequels because it's not a fair comparison to compare something that's brand new to something that's had so much content made for it. That being said, I think it plays great, and the experience is what I kind of want out of Payday. So like I don't really have any complaints about the game itself. I think the gameplay loop is satisfying. It's nice to hop in and out of missions. You can do stealthy approaches, which is satisfying. It's also just satisfying to go in there and see if you can just mow everyone down and make it out with everything. You typically, if you're with a team that can survive, you'll make a ton of money a lot quicker just going in, hot. So it's just, I think there's a little more of a personal satisfaction of not having to pull the trigger. So,
well, and on harder difficulties where going in hot is going to be a bigger threat to your team.
Yeah.
If you can get a lot accomplished, like when me and Josh stealthed the first mission, we were able to get all the bags out the back door, basically. Mm-hmm. So that was all done without shooting anybody. But then I had to put a cop down. I was out of fucking radios because he walked around the corner. I was like, shit, and I shot him, and I couldn't respond to the guy calling. I was like, it's over. So we started just grabbing the bags, and we're able to get him into the street. So basically, we only had to complete the end of the mission in a crazy scenario. So I think there is value to that. And I do think you get a bonus for stealth at the end. So it is worth doing stealth if you can.
Yeah. And then, just the fact that there are like, all sorts of different little mechanics to the game. Like if you go back to the jewelry shop, like some of the glass cases have locks, but those locks have sensors, and like there's a way to shut those off, and then you just pick the locks and the alarms go off, or you can just break the glass, or you can use a cutter. Like there's a bunch of options for the same exact result, basically. So you kind of get this freedom to play it out, either how the situation dictates you should, or however you want.
Yeah.
So, I do think that the game does need more equipment, and as a whole,
some stuff's pretty scarce. There's I forget what category it is, but there's only 4 items in it.
Well, so there's not very many weapons. There's not very many masks. However, I will say the premium masks in the game are very nice looking.
There's way more masks than there was too when I first played.
Yeah.
So when I first played, I was like, wow, there's not a whole lot of masks in this game.
And that takes time, obviously.
Yeah.
I think if people can be patient with it and like just revisit the game from time to time, you'll find more of that as long as they keep supporting it. Though I do know some of those original people aren't there anymore, so maybe it won't have the same pipeline. We'll see.
I think that's was my biggest concern when the game first came out. I saw it had like less content and no hand animations and shit, and like it felt like not quite as good as 2. So I'm like, maybe this team just is just making it to make money. And I know that some of the lead people on Payday 2 and 1 are working on that Den of Thieves game. That's basically a cyberpunk fucking Payday, which looks awesome. And so it's like, this happens in the game industry where the games you love, you're expecting the sequel, and then like you realize it's not the same people working on it, and you're like, oh no, is it going to be good? Most likely not. But this final product of what we've played now up until this point, I think it is definitely a serviceable sequel to Payday 2.
Yeah, and with support, it'll just I think it'll be a better game, honestly, because it's newer and mechanically feels better, in my opinion.
I think so. Hold your thought. Don't forget it. I think without comparing it too much to Payday 2, like I said, I think map design, there's not as many maps, but the map design I almost feels better. Stealth is better, and mechanically, the way gameplay feels is better. So there's improvements here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If there's something I do miss, and maybe it's in maps I didn't experience, and maybe it's because the game's trying to be more modern in its approach. But the one thing I really liked about Payday 2 was like sitting there tending the drill, right? Sometimes it would jam, it would overheat or whatever, and like you're sitting there like babysitting it while like either trying not to get caught or trying to keep waves of police off of you. I don't recall ever using a drill. We did have I guess we had a large drill to get through a wall in the courtroom.
Yep.
But like there was no safe drills to my knowledge. So
I don't remember if there is, but I think they're probably trying to get away from having the same gameplay mechanic in every map.
Sure, it was just kind of weird like there was none, right?
Yeah.
And maybe there is, and I just didn't experience it, like I said. And I'm not necessarily I'm not faulting it for that. I just kind of am nostalgic for that.
Sure.
There are other types of mechanics, but like I said, I do think the game has drones and like all these like camera hacking things, and like it's definitely trying to be more modern. So yeah, I mean, if I had any actual complaints with the game though, I think the UI is kind of meh. I think it's kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest, and especially the way they sort like the equipment, masks, and weapons. They give you some of them, and then all the ones that are purchasable.
About, like, the menus.
Yeah. And then more of the unlockable ones. So they're like in the middle is all the stuff you can buy, and it just feels goofy.
It feels cluttered to me. Yeah, it's like overly complicated for what it needs to be. Just like if you want to look at customization versus upgrades to your weapons, there's like different buttons to press at the very bottom to do that, and I feel like they could have put more time into making a more streamlined menu system. Yeah,
and I'm not really a fan of it.
It almost feels like a free to play game.
A little bit.
It's just like kind of clunky.
Yeah, and then to the skill system, though there are some useful ones in there and some fun ones in there, I think the entire skill system is kind of meh. I think it could use an entire revamp, in my opinion.
Sure.
I don't think it's satisfying in the least. I honestly didn't care about leveling. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. Like I didn't care when my guns leveled. The upgrades were fine. Like the gameplay loop was fun, and that's what's keeping me playing.
Yeah.
Progression honestly was doing nothing for me though, which is kind of weird to say. So
yeah, I think it could. I think a lot of the perks are pretty neat, but how slow you unlock them, and when you do unlock them, like I feel like it's underwhelming compared to what it could be. So yeah, I think maybe a perk rework would be smart.
Yeah, but otherwise, I think it's a good time. Better than I was expecting, which is nice because I was expecting a dumpster fire. So
I mean, you bought the game. So.
Yeah, and then I bought it on PC. I intend to play it again, and would like to play it again in a group setting. Sure. I don't think I want to play it all the time because I don't think there's enough content to be cracking out on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. So.
Yeah, it was completely off my radar since the last time I played it, and we had to play it. And when we had to play it, I was like, this game's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much so that I bought a copy for Josh because I found out he'd never played with us when it came out. So, because he heard,
you were having like who the hell did I play that game with? Moment,
because I had played in the past. I was like, I played with people. Who the fuck did I play it with? And I was like, I played with Cody. Who the fuck was the other person? And I was like, was it Josh? And then Josh was like, I never played that. I'm like, you didn't play Payday 3 at all? And he's like, no, I heard it was bad. I was like, oh. I was like, oh. And then I saw on my friends list, Chris was like level 20 something. I was like, I played with him. Weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. He played with us, but Josh didn't. So I ended up buying him a copy because I was like, we're playing anyway. Let's get a team together. So
yeah. And he sounded like he was a good time. So
yeah, he didn't sound upset at all playing it. So
yeah, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's jump into recommendations then. If you played Payday 2 and you didn't play this for some reason, or maybe you're like me and you played it when it first came out, it is in a better place. So I recommend you come back and check it out again. It's not going to blow your mind.
Yeah, it's not a perfect game,
it's in a better place, and I think it's fun. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about it outside of like needs more content.
Yeah,
UI rework. I agree with you on that. maybe perk rework. I think it's fine, but it's not like super exciting either. So I am open to the idea of like if they want to do a rework, that's cool. If you like cooperative games that have to do with communication and working together, I would recommend this. If you love heist movies or heist games in general, definitely play this. Play Payday 2.
Ocean's 11.
Yeah. If you like Left 4 Dead, it's not quite the same.
Is adjacent.
But it does have a similar feel because you're just fighting endless waves of things that are trying to stop you from finishing the map, basically. What else? I mean, you're going to be leveling and unlocking outfits, stuff like that. So if that sounds appealing to you.
And cosmetics.
Yeah.
They could use more outfits.
They could.
Yeah. They're going to keep doing the masks. It's obviously bread and butter of the series. But
yeah.
I do think because they give you the option to buy coats and stuff like that, they should have more.
Yep. Agreed. And if you like games that are challenging, I mean, we were playing on like the normal difficulty because you had just started, but it does have plenty of difficulties to keep going up. So if you want to work on something hard with your friends, this game could definitely do that for you. And if you like stealth games, it has stealth mechanics. Not the best in the world, but they're better than Payday 2. So you can definitely stealth most of the maps, and some of them you only can stealth. So
also, you kind of have to use your brain playing this game.
Yep.
Like there's things to figure out.
Yeah, it's not a brainless shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
you got anything else?
No, I was talking while you were. So,
yep. What would you grade it?
I would give it a B-. I think it is a good foundation. I think it is a very playable game. It is fun. It's easy to play with by yourself or with friends or randos if you're comfortable with that. It needs more stuff though. So, but yeah, B-.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a really strong B. I also want to give it a B+, but I think there's like plenty of room for improvement, so I don't want to go too hard on my grade. But I enjoyed myself, and I don't think it's a C game. I don't think it's an A game. B feels good, just because you could have a much worse time playing something else. This is a solid, fun game to play with your friends. You won't be bored. You might get bored over time because you've done the same missions over and over again. You're not unlocking enough cool stuff over time, but I feel like you could get a solid like 100 hours in this game and have fun the whole time. So yeah, definitely B.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, we talked a lot on that one.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what do you guys think about Payday 3 specifically. Coming into it, if you've never played a Payday, what do you think about it? But if you have played past Paydays, where are you at on it? Where do you think it stands? Do you think it's better, worse, about the same as Payday 2? Why do you think that? And irregardless of how you feel about prior Paydays, if you played this, what's some things about it you like, some things you didn't like about it, some things you like to see improved? And if you didn't play it, why didn't you play it? Because I'm still always curious about, maybe I get people on Reddit like, yeah, I didn't play that game, and I'm like, oh, why? And they're like, well, I'm not really into those kind of games. Oh, cool. Like, that's it. That makes sense. So yeah, let me know everything you're thinking about in the comments below when it comes to Payday 3. Last game we played in February was High on Life, which, if you didn't get a chance to play it, is a first-person shooter with a very heavy emphasis on comedy. It's a comedy first-person shooter. It's written by people who I believe worked on Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Squanch Games, I think the dev is. Yeah, you basically play as a kid who becomes a bounty hunter, intergalactic bounty hunter, after an alien cartel is stealing humans on Earth to basically use as drugs. Mm-hmm. And you are going through and being a bounty hunter and trying to stop them and kill and capture other people in this very comedically written, very Rick and Morty style world that's very colorful, very cartoony. It features, it's a very simple first-person shooter, but it features a lot of dialogue because the big bread and butter of this game is the comedic writing. It features weapons that are alive, so they talk to you. You have a pistol they start out with that talks to you. You later get other weapons with their own personalities. A knife early on you get that just is a fucking maniac who wants to kill everything. And the game deals a lot in its comedy with like a lot of more ironic stuff, like just kind of blatantly explaining every little thing in like a funny, ironic way. That you're like, yeah, that is true. Like exactly what you're saying. That makes sense. And yeah, when it comes to the gameplay though, It's basically just going to different places, shooting enemies that are saying funny things. Most of the guns feel fairly underwhelming, in my opinion. I guess we'll talk about that. And there's some abilities that all the weapons have. Nothing too crazy. It's a very, very simple shooter. It's mostly just about the experience. There's also like full movies you can watch in this, which is weird. Like the movie in the beginning when you're in the house. That's the whole movie. You can watch the whole thing, which is fucking wild. So we both played it, and I think you go first this time. What were your thoughts on High on Life? I'm really curious about your opinion.
So, I mean, just to start with, I mostly enjoy Rick and Morty. So there's a little bit of curiosity in the writing department there. But visually, I remember seeing this game and being kind of turned off by it. So now playing it, that opinion has not changed. I think specifically the weapons are, to be frank, stupid.
I think the people who made the game probably agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not even against the fact that they talk, and I'm actually going to give them props for right now. If you're not a fan of a game that just yaps at you for nonstop, there is a slider to make them talk less. So they're self-aware.
Yeah,
so
smart.
I can't even complain about it. It's your choice. So
yeah.
So I'm going to give them credit for that. I think the game is decent looking. It's
pretty clean.
It definitely has its own style. It is a clean looking game and it plays just fine. So like, I think as a game, it's a full package in that regard. I do think the shooting is a little simple, and but that's not the point, right? And I also think the guns feel very underwhelming because they're not. How do I word this? They're not like ballistics, right? So like you're getting these weird like snot weapons, and I don't know. They're all really goofy, and like I get it. It's the theme, right? It just doesn't do it for me in a gratifying way when I'm fighting things. The dialogue most of the time didn't hit for me, but I don't think it was necessarily bad. I just think I'm the wrong person for it.
No, actually, to touch on that real quick, I felt conflicted because I appreciated the writing. The comedy doesn't work for me in a way that's going to make me actually like laugh without control. But I always like, they say something like, yeah, that makes sense. Or like they say something that like was intended to be funny, but I'm just like, yeah, it's clever. Like,
yeah. Well, and they put a lot of work into it. Like an example I would give, I don't really think this is spoilery, but one of the places you go, you have to find like the one house that exists here, and some junky rich CEO guy lives in it, and he is fiending for a hit. And he has so much to say. I literally put the controller down. I just want to see how much he would have to say. It went on for, God, it must have been like almost half an hour. And he still had things to say that I hadn't heard. I was like, this is insane. This one guy has this much dialogue. And it was a continuation of things he was said before. And then you revisit him later and he has more to say. It was like super impressive.
Yeah.
Like props to them for like thinking like of all that.
Well, that's the thing that I think is the clever aspect of the writing is that they did think about stuff. There's, I don't think you went to this world, but
I think we went to different ones.
Yeah, but and I have played this game in the past, so I was more so revisiting it. But you talk to this dude, he's like, I need blah, blah, blah for you to get through here. I was like, okay. And I like walk off. And then when I come back, he like opens it up and he goes to talk. I just ran right past him because I was just like gameplay wise. I'm like, I'm just trying to get through this area. And as I ran past, like, yeah, just walk right past me. Like, fuck me for whatever the hell I have to say. And so he's like commenting on that. I just like ran past them. So they knew when they made the game. Some people are probably going to listen to him because they're probably curious about what he has to say. Some people are probably just going to run right past him. So if they run right past him, we'll make him say something to kind of be meta about it and be like, we already knew you were going to do that.
Well, it's like even early on, there's that kid who runs up to you and like is just talking shit, basically tells you to kill him.
Yeah.
And then you do. And then like you go like 5 feet forward and his mom's just there and you're like, oh, this is weird. And she's like, oh no, he's a prick. He wanted to die anyways. I was like,
Yeah, she says that in their race, he wasn't a kid.
Yes, yeah. And I was just like, that was really weird. Okay.
Yeah, it was funny because like I've played it in the past and I went through the whole dialogue of him like trying to get you to shoot him, and this time around I just like walked up and he was like blah blah blah. I went bop and I shot him and then he like said something and then died and I was like oh yeah, and I just kept going because like yeah I've been through it already. But it was just funny that no matter how you go about it, whether you sit there and listen to him or you just shoot him, you get an end result that works both ways.
Yeah, and then and character design and stuff like that is very well done.
It's imaginative.
Yeah.
Even I forgot his name, but like the main guy,
The bum.
Yeah, with the one gross
The
eye,
milky eye.
Yeah, it's gross, but like yeah, they all look like a cartoonist designed them.
Oh yeah,
which
definitely.
of course they were, but
Yeah.
like I'm it's a good thing that they have that kind of imagination.
Or like the pawn shop and the big old gross dude in the chair and his dickhead kid.
Yeah,
Which is a interesting way too, because that's your shop to buy your upgrades and stuff like that too, especially, and that includes your guns, so you revisit it all the time.
and there's a bunch of items in there too. They have like a bunch of different things you can read about them when you look.
One
at them
like
and
they
stuff.
have purchase buttons, and then you go to buy them, and the guy's like, "No, I like that. It's not for sale anymore."
Yeah,
Like, fuck you.
it's just like a big joke.
Yeah. So, yeah, the worlds are also varied, which I appreciate as well, especially if you're gonna make a cartoony game that is definitely more so like, meant to be a journey, because it's definitely not meant to be like this gripping shooter. It's appreciated that the environments change up.
You mentioning shooter real quick reminds me too. It's funny because I think as a shooter, this is a pretty underwhelming shooter. But I also think it's better than it should be. It's a functioning shooter. It feels like a legit first-person shooter. It just doesn't offer anything that's like exciting in terms of the gameplay, but it functions like any base level first-person shooter should. And that was impressive because this is, I think, their first game, Squanch, whatever the hell. It's being made adjacently to stuff that What's His Nuts has done in the past with Rick and Morty. It's not obviously the same, but like it's definitely similar in its vibe. And so as like a first off project, maybe they did an indie game before this, I don't remember, but it's pretty high quality.
Yeah.
Like graphically, it's not the most amazing thing, but it's pretty good looking and pretty clean looking. And then the shooting mechanics like are more than functioning.
Yeah, I think they nailed their style for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
All they had to do is maybe add some like crazy ragdoll and like weapons that had crazier impact and some cool mechanics.
I definitely agree with the impact.
And it would have been like a way better game because it's already like the writing and stuff. And there's something I want to talk about when I get to my impressions, but like that's all solid, regardless of if you're into the comedy or not. The effort's there.
Yeah.
And they nailed it, even if you don't think it's that funny. I think they did what they set out to do. But yeah, the only thing I think that's like kind of lacking is like the gameplay could be more exciting, but it's solid.
Yeah,
it works.
Well, honestly, that's the worst part of the game for me. Outside of the comedy, it wasn't hitting for me really.
Yeah. I was never bored though.
No, I wasn't either.
To what they're talking about. Yeah.
I was more so fascinated that they had that much dialogue in the game.
Yep.
It's honestly a feat. And then it has a progression system. Like you get new weapons, they allow you to traverse even the main city differently. Like I got this frog-esque like shotgun type weapon that shoots discs that can stick into certain surfaces.
Yeah, and there's like a sniper rifle and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, and that allows you to climb up new walls and get to new stuff. So it has a lot of like just video gamey things to it, which I appreciate. My biggest problem is I don't think it's that fun to play. And so like I wasn't inclined to keep going because the comedy's not hitting for me and the gameplay is kind of boring for me. I just kind of was like, okay, I get it. And I shut it off. So I tried to give it a fair shake because like I said, I like Rick and Morty. Mm-hmm. I don't like love Rick and Morty, but I like Rick and Morty. But it is a high quality game. And so I want to give it credit. But I mean, those are generally my impressions of the game. So
yeah, in a nutshell, I think the game's just better than it deserves to be, which is good. I think they put more effort into it than I expected from them. So maybe that's just my perspective being, not as educated as it could be. But every time I've interacted with this game, I'm like, this is better than I feel like it should be. So that's definitely a good thing. Yeah, like I said, I've played this in the past. I'm returning to it, playing it again, and overall, it's a solid game. I think the visuals are very unique. I think you look at this game and you know exactly what game it is. It's imaginative. It definitely does a lot of things you're not seeing in a lot of games in terms of like comedy and just like writing scenarios that don't necessarily serve us moving the story forward, but are kind of living in the scene. Like you, when you first get the knife and go back and talk to the old bounty hunter guy, and the knife's like stab him, and it's just like what? And he's like just stab him. He knows like this is normal, whatever. And he ended up stabbing the guy. He's like whoa. He's like freaking out, and then he's like laughing about it. It's like it's funny you just stabbed him. Like that didn't progress the story forward at all. It's just a ridiculous moment.
Yeah.
It's like watching a movie, a comedy.
He's just
So,
fulfilling something that's been talked about the entire mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, and talking a little bit of spoilers here, but not really too much because it's all early stuff. But I think her name's Torg 13 or something like that.
Oh,
I don't remember.
the bug girl.
The first like major bounty you go after, you end up fighting her. The fight isn't like, it's not like super crazy, but it actually is a little more involved than just
mechanical.
shooting her.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But I think there's this moment right after you beat her that's kind of funny. There's like all these different Torgs out there, and she happens to have one of them tied up. And after you kill her, the tied up one comes out, and then you end up killing her while she's tied up. But when you shoot her, she has all of a sudden a boss health bar as well, and it starts going down. And then when you kill her, it's like you killed a boss.
I didn't do that.
What'd you do?
Just walked away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went and talked to her, and she was like, "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll get down later."
Oh, yeah, I shot her, and as soon as you
That's
shoot
funny.
her, a boss health bar shows
So
up.
they thought about that.
Yeah, and then you shoot her, and it goes down, and when you do it, it's like, oh, we beat another boss, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just talked to her and I left.
Yeah, so they thought about all these scenarios of what the player's going to do and wrote comedy to it. So I really appreciate that effort. It obviously doesn't go unnoticed. And that kind of goes to my bigger point. Regardless of how I feel about this game fully, and I do like it. Not in love with it, but I like it. This reminds me that there's a whole genre of gaming that we don't really get to experience anymore, and that's a comedic game. People don't make funny games anymore. There's not a lot of them. You get like, you know,
Borderlands tries, but
yeah, they sure fucking do. Borderlands 3 definitely missed the mark on that. But you'll play like a fucking JRPG or a Western RPG, and there'll be like a funny character or like some funny dialogue,
Or a
but
clip.
it's not like trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But like back in the day, we get games like Conker's Bad Fur Day, which was
Oh,
just
yeah.
like a comedic, crazy game that was just fun. Some of the South Park games back in the day, even the South Park RPGs and newer ones, comedic games. We don't get a lot of those anymore, and so it's really kind of cool to see somebody see if they could do it. It's kind of the perfect people to do it, because whoever the devs are, not like Squanch, but like whatever their pedigree is, I don't know what they've worked on in the past, maybe a different company or something like that. They've been able to make a pretty solid shooter. So it feels like they've made a shooter before, or at least they understand the fundamentals of it.
Yeah.
But then like the writing and the creative ideas and designs by the people who worked on Rick and Morty really kind of makes this funny experience that like we don't really get games like that anymore. And so if anything, it kind of makes me want more games that don't take themselves serious. This game also is like very confident in its comedy. It doesn't feel like it's trying. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard. It's just more like Rick and Morty. Like the guy obviously has a mind for a specific kind of comedy.
Definitely.
And it is just chock full of that kind of comedy. It's very confident. Whereas like you brought up Borderlands. Borderlands 3 is like trying so like Duke Nukem Forever. It's trying so fucking hard, and it's also Gearbox. That's funny. Trying so fucking hard to be funny in the most adolescent and stupid ways, and it's inconsistent in its comedy, and it's like, what the fuck was that? Why they like it's just stupid.
yeah. And like 2 was great. So
2 is amazing.
but
I love Borderlands 2.
but they didn't, stick around, obviously. So
Yeah, the writer didn't work on 3 from 2. So yeah. So anyway, this game, it just feels really confident in the comedy that they wrote. It's consistent throughout the whole thing. You could tell it's like the same mind writing all this stuff. And so that's kind of cool too. I love the confidence in the writing. So yeah, overall, I think the game's solid. I think it is a fun experience. I would like to. I never played all the way through it. I think it's only like an 8-hour game.
I can't imagine it'd be too long.
Yeah, especially with all the writing and stuff. Like it's different things that can happen different ways. I need to play through it, but my problem with this game is the gameplay is fine, and I want more than fine. I want to spend my time playing games that are like really fun. Like, and that sounds stupid, but like that's what I'm looking for when I play a game. And this game, I think its strongest appeal is just the world and the writing, and that part is really cool. So I wish if they do make a sequel, they improve the gameplay, add like some cool skills, perks, stuff like that. Not just like there obviously is new features you unlock, mechanics, stuff like that as you play.
I don't know if I want to see a sequel, but like another project would be cool.
Sure, yeah, even another project, because like this is like a great starting point. I think it's super solid, but I just want that like you got to keep playing feeling when you're shooting stuff. Because in this, like I'm like fighting a whole crowd of dudes, and I'm just, I've played shooters plenty, so I'm like just point at them, and oh, you dropped. I'm getting shot. I'm gonna get behind cover, and like there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
But then when I talk to people, I'm not bored anymore. Like that's fucking crazy. Like I said, that's crazy that happened. Oh, that's interesting. That's kind of smart. Oh, that's cool. Also, there's like stuff to find on the maps, so that's good. There's a reason to explore. Mm-hmm. And random NPCs sometimes have like really ridiculous things to say, so it is worth exploring these locations. But yeah, overall, I think it's a solid game. I would like to just sit down and finally beat it, and now I have it on PlayStation Plus, so I could just do that. I would like to see these guys make more games, because I think this is like a great. I don't even know it was the first game, but I think it's either first or second. I think it's a great early attempt at AAA-esque game development. So super solid game. Just want more better gameplay. That's it. Other than that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I do not.
All right, jump into recommendations. I would recommend this to anybody who likes comedy, anyone who likes Rick and Morty, anyone who is missing the days of comedic video games. You have to play this game, I think, because it's just like that's what it does the best. Anybody who's into sci-fi loosely with comedy.
Also, it's like if you're into vulgar humor,
yes,
it's very vulgar.
Yep, which I like. I hate super safe and dry comedy. Sometimes, like if the writing's really smart, I like it, but I do find myself enjoying more like extreme comedy, just because I'm like, what the fuck. So this does have stuff like that, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. Yeah, so if you like comedy video games, stuff like that, definitely check it out. Rick and Morty, check it out. If you like I said, sci-fi, check it out. If you like first-person shooters, this is a decent one. It's not necessarily hard, but it's a shooter. It's pretty decent. It's got like weapons that have new abilities that allow you to go to different places and do different things as you play. So there's definitely stuff to work towards. I don't know what else I would add to that.
I don't either.
'Cause it is what it is. If you're not, here's a recommendation. If you're not into comedy, if you're not into Rick and Morty, if you're not into that kind of funny stuff, this probably is not going to work for you.
Yeah,
because it is very what it is. So yeah, there's my recommendation. Don't play it. So yeah, probably should grade it.
Okay.
Who went last time? Who's grading this time? You went first, so I grade first.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a B on this one. I almost want to give it a B plus, but I think the gameplay just kind of knocks it down a peg. If it was just the writing and like the creativity, I would probably give it like an A minus or an A. I think it's, even though the comedy doesn't work fully for me, it's like witty and smart. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like that. But yeah, gameplay wise, I just really think it needs some improvement. I was never like having a blast when I was shooting people, and you want that from a shooter. So yeah, I'm gonna go with a strong B.
Yeah. I mean, I already stated it, but I'm definitely not the target audience. That being said, I think it is a well-made game. It definitely could use some improvements. We've already brought it up, honestly, ad nauseum at this point. But the shooting mechanics could be a lot more fun.
Yep.
And maybe they do it for you. Maybe it's just not for us, right? In that regard. But I do think is a little lackluster in that department. But the rest of the game, I think, is made very well. And I'm going to give them a little bump in my grade just because I do think the dialogue, regardless of my enjoyment of it, is very impressive. So I'm going to give it a B+.
Okay.
I think it is a very unique experience that I haven't had anywhere else. So
It's definitely unique. Yeah. That's kind of what I was saying with the comedy gameplay thing. Like
I mean, Conquer is like the closest thing I think of, right?
Yep.
It's more in vein with that, and that's a platformer, obviously. But
yeah.
it
And
is
also of a different era where comedy like that was a little more acceptable.
yeah.
But this proves that it can also be acceptable in modern times if done right. So
Yeah, yeah. I would like to see them make other games. Maybe it's just this one didn't do it for me, but I do think they made a solid product.
yeah,
So.
they definitely have the talent to make more games, and even if they all still have that art style and kind of writing style, but different worlds, different types of genres, kind of cool.
Yeah.
To see an RPG or something would be kind of neat. So yeah. So B+, I gave it a strong B. I also gave it a B+, but I just really wish that gameplay was a little better.
Yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for how impressed I was with the way the audio is done in the game,
It's great. Yeah.
it would be lower. So
Yeah, that's fair. Anything else?
no.
All right, let us know in the comments what you guys think about High on Life. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you not play it? If you didn't play it, why didn't you play it? And if you did play it, what did you like about it? Are you a Rick and Morty fan and you played this? So how do you feel about it from that perspective? And if you're not, how do you feel about it from that perspective? What's some of your favorite parts in the game, favorite weapons? How do you feel about the combat? That was the thing we talked about a lot. Did the comedy work for you? And if you, I'm sure you already commented on this, if you did have a strong opinion about it, is this their first game? Or if it's their second one? And do you hope for more games by them? Do you know if they are working on more games? Let me know everything you think about in the comments below when it comes to High on Life. But that's going to do it for this episode of Plus Club for February. So always thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you, Shed, for joining me for this conversation. And if you made it to this far, thank you for joining this conversation with us. And of course, let us know everything you're thinking in the comments below. I've been Seth, and stay tuned. We'll be having a taste cast soon. I got some videos already lined up for that. If you have any suggestions, of course, let us know in the comments below. And I think that's everything. So until the next episode, have a good one, guys, and take it easy.